Hello and welcome back. So today we are in Athens, Greece, but first we had a quick stop in Cabanas, had a great breakfast with Mickey waffles and a toasted English muffin for me with butter, and then we were off the ship. So we did wake up very early this morning. I believe we woke up about 5 o'clock, and then we were off the ship at 7:10. So this day our people were already there waiting on us. I can't remember the agreed time that we had with the tour, but we were off the ship and in the car by 7:15. So one thing that actually really surprised me, and it does make a lot of sense, was that there was a lot of city, like you can see all the buildings, all the cars, like all the traffic and stuff that was set in Athens. So actually the Acropolis and the Parthenon was actually just a small part in the city. So it was just really shocking for us to get off the ship and have to drive through the city just to get into that area. Because when I think of Athens, I think of the Acropolis and everything. I don't think of the city and the buildings. So that was really shocking for me. So on the way over to our first stop, the drivers and our tour guide was telling us a few quick facts about Athens, including that the port that we were at was actually the busiest in all of Greece and actually the busiest in Europe in terms of passengers and visitors they get per year. We were actually on the way to the Parthenon Stadium. I may have butchered that name, but this is actually the stadium where the first modern Olympics were set, and it's got a long history of games like the Olympics in early years.
So most sports for the first modern Olympic Games took place in this stadium. Back then, of course, they had.
It is also the only stadium in the world that is built entirely out of marble. So this reconstruction was done by some emperor or someone, and it was done and completed in 1896 for the first Olympic modern games. Prior to that, they also had games and things that were probably not like the Olympics we have here now, but something of that sort and nature. Then we made our way over to the president's house, because in front of his house they do a changing of the guard, which is a ceremonious thing that they do about every hour, and our guide is about to tell us about that in just a few moments. We were also one of the first people to get here this morning.
1 year long you have to go to the army, and some people are selected for this very elite.
It would be an honor.
Yes, it's an honor. Of course, they select people who are tall, generally, and I think there are about 300 of them. So every hour, especially now in the summer, because it's too hot, they cannot stand more than that. They are changed, there are new ones about, and they are replaced. Their uniform is based on, and that's similar to the kind of clothes they used to wear back then, people that were military, immobile, irregular forces, also during the War of Independence, both the shoes that you can see like that, and this kind of dressing, and it was also the uniform that also during the 20th century the elite corps of the Greek army used to wear, similar to this. So now it is all only being kept by this presidential guard, but which is still part of the regular army.
So you can see how precise their movements were, and how this guard is actually going around to make sure that everything stays the same and looks in perfect condition, because they aren't able to move at all once they are doing this position. Our guide actually told us that he does this regularly, and when they're on each end of their post, they still go around and make sure that everything is perfect and clean and looks good. And in just a few seconds, you'll be able to see how much the crowd grew from when we got there to with 0 people to now a bunch of people witnessing the changing of the guards. So I thought this was very interesting and how precise and everything had to be for them to do this, and the fact that they actually have only, I think he said about 300 people that do this, and how each person has to match the exact specifications like height and I'm assuming weight and everything just in order to be in this position. And to see their movements in just precise exact motions side by side, and just to know, like, one thing that I thought about was, like, how do they know when they need to move? Because before we got there, they were on each post, like, very far apart, and then they moved closer together. But how do they know when to move? They can't look at their watch, they can't do anything. So that was just very unique, and I'm still wondering about that, actually. And after we left there, it was finally time to go to the Acropolis and see the Parthenon. So you can see that this is the entrance going into where you have to scan your tickets, and this was the bathroom, and this bathroom was the first bathroom that we had been in that you could not flush the toilet paper, so you actually had to throw that in the trash in a separate thing. But you can see us going into the ticket thing, and we just let them scan our tickets, and we were good to go in, went through a turnstile, and we were good. And you can see the amount of crowds that were there. Like, we knew it was going to be busy. We knew this was a big touristy area, but I don't think I was prepared for how many people were actually there. And you're going to see lots more people, especially once we get to the main Acropolis area and when we went through the gates and saw how many tour groups, how many people were just there.
But unlike original theaters which were open air, audience were closed buildings on top. This is how it looked like when it was built. And they were mostly used for not for theater but for musical entertainment.
So this theater was very interesting to look at and see, and I believe he told us that they still had events and music and concert series here, like people could actually go and listen to maybe at night. And in a few seconds I'm going to show you something off in the distance on a mountain over there. It was some type of Greek architecture, something that had been there for a very long time, but I really don't remember what this was and what he said. And then also in the distance we are going to see our ship, the Disney Dream, and I'll zoom in on that in just a few seconds. But one thing that I really wish that I could have asked our guide about was Mars Hill. So we are Christians, we're very religious, so to see Mars Hill from where we were at would have been very interesting, and to get a little more historical context of Mars Hill. We actually knew a family that was over here in Europe when we were, and they got to see Mars Hill, and I believe they even went like maybe on like some type of Bible tour or something through here. Either way, this area was very interesting, and I was very, very excited to see the rest.
The centuries invasions and destructions, this is from the oldest phase. So once we will around the corner, we will be to the top of the hill, to the top of the section.
Get on, maybe get on that. Get over, yeah.
Okay. And this is how it used to look like back then. There were steps, as are now. Now we are up.
So I know that I'm actually showing the ground a lot here, but this area that looks like more like rocks, not more like concrete with rocks in it, over to the right, was very extremely slick. I believe he said that that was actually made out of limestone, and I think this white stuff was maybe marble, if memory serves me correctly, but it was extremely slick. So I was showing the ground a lot, primarily for me to look down and make sure that I wasn't going to slip and fall, but also just to see like how different everything looked. My mom was very scared of falling, and I actually almost slipped once because I decided to wear my AliExpress Hokas, which were slick on the bottom to begin with, so that just was not a very good idea. And actually, when we were going back down the stairs, we saw one person slip and fall and land on her arm. And it honestly, I thought she broke her arm because the way she was holding it. But she went on, kept going, and I honestly don't really know how she is doing right now. And then we started making our way through this very long line up the stairs into the Acropolis. And as you can see, there were signs that said, "Do not touch the marble." I did follow the signs the best I can remember, but that is something I definitely would have done. But you can see the amazing architecture that they put into this that was so advanced, and things that like now, like we would see this, and it was truly amazing, honestly, to see this. And you can see how the columns were actually made by different pieces to make the big long columns, and you can see that hole in the middle, and I believe they said it was held by some type of metal rod, which is why half of the columns are missing, because people would come in from different wars, I suppose, and vandalize and get the metal because that was valuable more than the actual columns. And just walking through this small little area and seeing all the architecture, and then walking in and seeing this, the Parthenon, and seeing all the other amazing sculptures in this area, and again, the architecture was just another moment in our trip when we were like, oh my goodness, we're actually here. Like, we've seen this in school and saw this in movies, but we are actually here right now. I think this was the day I was most excited for. Our guide was very knowledgeable, and that's why I've got a lot of videos of him talking and telling all the information, because I cannot remember it.
More than one body, like part of it was Parthenon, part of it was for Poseidon, the god of the sea, part of it was for Hades, and part of it was from some other minor local gods and heroes. Athens, and that's why, if you see its architectural plan, it's a bit more complicated than the Parthenon. Rectangular building. This Athens to the city, according to the myth, and olive tree became a sacred symbol of the city and of the god. That's why when you have this festival, the Athenian festival, which also include sport games, races, and the musical competitions and so on, the winners could be given a huge vase filled with olive oil to commemorate this gift of the city, now to give to the winner from the city. For example, right here, there were other smaller temples and buildings all around. So
They come and get pieces that fit.
So there are pieces that have been found. Some could have been also from the temple, so they are documented if they can be reattached in the reconstruction. Or there are some other buildings that used to be here but have been demolished in the centuries.
Okay.
This is the lines around. Of course, this is, you should imagine this spot. Now it's apart from the buildings, it's almost empty, the hill. But it was a sanctuary, it was a place where people would donate statues, offerings, buildings as offerings to the gods. So all around it was crowded with statues and monuments. And when we go to the museum, we will see a lot of them that have been excavated.
This was really cool to look at, and I've got really good pictures of those little statues in that temple over there, and then we later saw the real ones in the museum, but I just thought it was really cool just to see this.
This mountain, one from the south where the sea is, so you have Timitos over there to the east, and then behind the sea, the mountain behind the origin of the marble up here, Parthenon, and the Valley mountain over there. So it's always, even in winter, has always been protected because of the mountains and from snowing. Most of it is quite not so well built and nice, but just below here on the north side, neighborhood of Plaka, when you see right here, when you have later free time to walk around. So now we are on the eastern side, and so in front of the main entrance to the temple. If you will get inside from this side, from the main door, this is what you will see back then. A huge statue of Athena made of gold and ivory. This is actually, it has of course not survived through the centuries. It was at some point destroyed or stolen, but this we know from ancient small.
Another quick picture, and then also I thought it was really cool that you could just see all these random pieces just laying here. I guess they were just, I don't know why they were there, but looks like they were excavating there too.
You don't need to. I guess I don't either. Did you almost fall? I did.
Little things just pop up. What? Very dangerous around here.
It does look like Legos up there. Legos. You can barely see it in that video, but I thought that was really cool that those look like Legos. But then we started making our way back down, and then you can see those little lines over there. That was another cool thing. And at the top of this hill right here, I believe we probably could have seen Mars Hill from here. So it's like right next to this area where the Acropolis was, and I really regret not asking about that. I know I've already said that, but it's one of the biggest regrets I've got of this trip, honestly.
The Roman era as well. So this is 4th century AD, so it's about 800 years after the Parthenon and the other hills. But it's still an ancient neighborhood. The foundations of the houses. What's quite impressive is it has a plumbing system. So the pipes not water to the houses.
That's interesting. So going into the museum was a very, very, very long line, and there were actually 2 lines, and this is going through the security checkpoint, which is what you're seeing right now. But there were one really long line and then another really short line. So our tour guide, I think he may have known someone there, and he just went and asked if we could go up there, and they said, yeah, go ahead. So we got through really super quick and did not have to wait that long line. And then we just were taking a look at all the different replicas they have here.
Before the wars of Persia, so before the destruction, so around 500 BC, they had built where the erection temples now, they had the temple to Athena, and they had started constructing another much bigger temple, where the Parthenon is located today.
So I thought it was a little funny that you can see these two people standing in the background, but they followed us for a little bit through the different areas that we were at, just listening to our tour guide talk. I guess they didn't have a guide, and honestly I really didn't care because he was a great guide and gave lots of information. But then we started looking at all the different pieces that they found in the area and excavated in the Acropolis area, and that included multiple jars, artwork, and if you've ever seen Hercules, the Disney animated movie, at the very beginning, they start off with the ladies who are on the jars and they're hand painted on there. So I thought it was really cool to actually see jars that had designs and decorations and stuff just like the movie, which I know that was based on real life, obviously, but again, I still thought it was really interesting to see this like in person, like see that this is things that they actually got from the area and things that ancient people and they used back then. So now I think it's a good time to tell you about the tour group we use. So this is called PK Tours. I'm going to link the tour guide and website in the description below so y'all can go look at it. But we found this group through the Mediterranean Facebook page. Again, I believe the person that I called the president has used these people multiple times, and I'd seen multiple good reviews of them, so I felt comfortable doing them. We done a private tour, which was 280 euros. It included the Acropolis, it included the museum, and it included going to Plaka later on, which you're going to see after we leave the museum. So that was 280 euros for the both of us. And then once we added the tour guide, it was a little bit more, to be honest. I can't remember, and I can't find a full total of how much we gave to this tour group for that. But I want to say that we did have to pay for the tickets. They were 40 euros, and I will tell you a story about that towards the end, how we had to pay for the tickets. But altogether, I honestly don't know how much it was. But when I looked on the Disney Port Adventures to see all of the things that the tours and things that we could have done, there's not a tour that I saw that would have been exactly like this one. So one of the more expensive ones was about $250 per person. And like I said, the base for like the minimum amount that we would have paid for this tour was 280 euros. That did not include the tour guide that was with us, and it obviously did not include lunch like some of the Disney excursions offered. But this guide, I believe we could have added multiple people to it, and they could have accommodated us in a larger van. So if you have multiple people going on a trip, it would have been a lot less per person. But going back to the Disney excursions, there is not one that I saw that was exactly like what we done. I saw some that was the Acropolis and the museum and lunch, but I didn't see some that included all three. So I really feel like we done really good for the price and for what we were able to get. And again, being in that private tour and not being with a big group, one that we felt comfortable going to ask questions to and getting just more personal one-on-one time with our guide and also our driver as well. But again, looking at all this stuff was very interesting, and I will give more information about the tour and my thoughts on it later.
The base of the sightseeing of city where the doctors of Athens were dedicated to this to him. For people who were helped, they were also offering the offerings from the moldy part that had been held. So we had eye problem, for example, would be such an offering for ear and leg. So that was the theater looked like, again, the slopes of Acropolis here. And for ancient, actually theater was invented in Athens as a form of entertainment, but originally it was not just entertainment, actually it was part of religion, and it was part of worshipping the god Dionysus, the god of wine. And like Dionysus with the wine vase and the wine cup was part of the decoration in the theater. And people, they had not, actors would appear with their masks because each actor portrayed more than one role usually, so they had to change the mask either to change the part or because theoretically the sentiment, the emotions change. So when the tragedy happens, then it was a different mask. So it was only made for they are decoration actually, they don't serve other specific purposes.
Really
Not well preserved. Because we can, that's how we clean it, we cannot just take it and wash it with soap, because also we have this laser, it's very similar to what we do in the movie tattoos.
That's what I thought. That's what it looked like.
Similar technology, very, very slow process of course, just dusts and humidity and so on and so forth. So how it looked like when it was brought here, how dark it looked like. Trade growing up, so this was and various the royal family of Athens and some other minor goddesses and gods appear and watch this scene. As much detail are worked as much as possible. This is the myth of Athena and Poseidon contest, and now above the western end. This time it's battle between Athenians and Amazons. Amazons were warrior women.
So I thought this was very interesting that some of these pieces were actually real. Now you can probably tell the obvious white pieces are pieces that were added to complete the picture and everything, but these are real pieces from the Parthenon that was at the Acropolis. So you can see this, I believe, was on the inside of it.
Actually, even decorated with such metallic saddles. So this is where the saddles were. And of course, all these decorations you see were all colorful, not white.
But this whole section wrapped around a big square that I believe was mirroring the Parthenon and the size of it. And then you could look over to the right in these beautiful glass windows and see the Acropolis on the hill. But these were some more of the areas, and I'm going to show a few more things because this was not all. They actually had the outside of the Parthenon. They had areas of that, and I'll show that in a minute. These were at the top of the roof and the ceiling of that. And those that were higher up and elevated on the metal poles were actually the ones that would have been on the outside of the Parthenon. So wrapping around the whole building. And a lot of pieces our guide mentioned were actually not in the museum. I know the British Museum had a few pieces, and maybe a few other museums around the world actually have pieces from the Acropolis that were never returned to them to Greece. So that was really interesting to note too.
Procession like now older men towards the center, and people bringing offerings, invasions, and and musicians taking part in the procession. They will put there, and animals that will be sacrificed, boxes and sheep and so on. So this is how you move closer to the end of the procession, but it ends just above the main.
And these larger sculptures actually would have been the ones that were inside of the little triangle that I zoomed in, and I'll insert a picture of that here. But that would have been what would have been on the inside of that in the front and in the back, I believe. So this is where our guide left us. So it was the end of the half-day tour, and then our driver took over and told us a little more information about everything that we were passing in the streets on the way to Plaka. So that was really interesting to hear a lot of facts and things about the areas that we were at.
New building is also State Department.
The black and white.
Yes, the glass. And the other building on the left side of State Department is the Egyptian Embassy. This building, which was the residence of Eric Schliemann, a German archaeologist that discovered Troya and Mycenae. Alexandros told you about the beautiful Ellen and Troya,
Yes.
etc. etc. That archaeologist, Eric Schliemann, was very fond of Greece and also married Bank of Greece, Federal Reserve in US standards. Yes. On the two pillars, goddess Athena and god Apollo. And the two statues on the lower level is Socrates and Plato, the student and the tutor.
How old is this building?
These three buildings constructed between 1815 and 1860, and belongs to the heritage of the new infrastructure of the new capital.
So this was actually the University of Athens, so that's why I guess one was the teacher and then one was the student. So later on we're actually going to see the real life painting of the School of Athens, and that will be in Rome. So that was, I guess, a good nod to the University of Athens and also the School of Athens, which was renowned for all of the major philosophers and teachers and students in.
Neoclassic means the building that, architectural point of view, combines new elements and ancient elements in the design, the architecture. We call them neoclassic.
And once we got to Plaka, we were given a few hours to shop and eat some lunch, and we did just that. So we did look around at all the stores. We tried to take our time trying to figure out a restaurant to eat at, because we had seen multiple things saying don't eat it at the restaurants that have a menu in front of it, or they have people trying to get you to come eat there. So we took our time trying to find a restaurant to eat at. We did pick one that looked fairly busy and looked like it had maybe a few locals at it, and so we chose that one. But we also looked around going into Plaka and tried to figure out what stores we wanted to go to and figure out if there's anything we saw that we just had to have, which of course we didn't on the way in. I was pretty hungry at this point, so we decided just to go eat lunch first, and then we, on our way back, if we saw something that we really liked, we would stop back by on the way out to get it, because our driver gave us the address and was like, just come back here and I'll pick you up and then we'll go. So I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time to get back to that point, and if we got lost, we had time to get back to that area, which we did have plenty of time to. But this is actually our meal, and I'm going to show you that now.
Spinach and cheese pie, is that what it was? No Coke yet.
This was the best thing I ate at this restaurant, and you're gonna see what I got and what my mom got. My mom got some type of stewed tomato thing. She said it was actually really good.
I have a feeling you're not gonna like that. Maybe you will though.
Now we know what kebab.
Yeah, now I know.
And then, of course, we got gelato, and I'm a very, very, very picky person when it comes to eating. So, when I ordered a kebab, I guess I just thought, you know, an American kebab with peppers and steak or chicken on it. No, that was some type of lamb sausage. I did not eat that. I ate a few french fries, and I was so glad that my mom let me eat most of that pie, the spinach pie.
What is this? I bet Google Maps knows. Hold on.
I never figured out what that was, but we did figure out what this was later on in the drive back to the ship. We did pick up a few souvenirs from here, but other than that, we just had a good time shopping and looking around, and it was not too hot here.
The Arch of Hadrian or the Gate of Hadrian.
I'm going over here. This is Midship. And it's close. Well, the line's shorter.
I was so glad to get back on the ship so I could get some more food. This came from the Cove Cafe. That is that cranberry bliss bar that they have at Starbucks, and a warm croissant that tasted fresh. That was delicious and what I needed most. We did go to the spa, and then you can see here, I'm looking off in the distance, you can see the Acropolis. I'm about to zoom in on that. And from here, I could see our driver still down there. And I thought, oh, I guess he's just waiting to see if anyone needs to be picked up to go. So I thought, you know what, whatever. Didn't think about it. So I mentioned that we had to pay for tickets on the tour. These are our souvenirs. But the tickets that we had were ones that we told the tour company to just go ahead and buy what we need, and then we will reimburse you and pay you the day of the tour. Well, we forgot about that. I completely forgot to pay our tour guide the money for the tickets, so he was waiting this whole time out there on me. And once I got back on the ship, I didn't use my service. We kind of tried to relax and just kind of have a slow evening for the rest of the day. And so I felt really bad after that. We did get it cleared up, and they were just able to charge my card for that. But I felt so bad because he waited there for a good while after we had already left. Then, of course, it was time for dinner, and that shrimp was so good, as well as the sundae. And then, of course, our tail animal, which was the swan. So we're going right into day 2. We did actually go with our people that we were eating with, that were at our table. There was some type of show called Meet Your Maid or Match Your Maid or something like that. So we did go with them to watch that. So we had a later night in because the next day was actually rest day. And the reason I recorded this is because we had this channel on almost all the time because we just had it on in the background just to have something on, and it played this music all the time. So I took a video so I would not forget the music. And then I really did not show breakfast at all the next day. We just had a calm start, and we went and played the mini golf at the back of the ship, and we just really had a really relaxing, calm day and tried to gather all our stuff together so we would be ready to disembark in a few days.
So apparently my phone is out of storage. It said I've got 249 used of 260 gigabytes, so it was quick recording on that. But we're packing. We have an extra gray suitcase. We're washing clothes right now, but that still has about 20 minutes left. And then I don't know. We had to pay the $100 fee because we had over baggage fees on the way here. And we're going to try not to do that, but I don't know how good that's going to work.
It is a little warm, but it's also because we're right next to the window. What is that grilled meat? Can't forget the ice cream. I don't know where we are. It's off of Italy. I think that's some type of volcano over there. Someone on Facebook said so. We have service, so I got some service to look at stuff, but that's another part of Italy. We went to the show and then went to dinner. We did sit with some of the people that we ate at with their table. And then I was trying to do the Midship Detective Agency. So this was one of my favorite things, activities to do on the ship when we really didn't have much to do. It was really fun. So if you're doing that, if you're going to be on the Dream of the Fantasy, I believe, and maybe a few of the other ships, they've got something similar, if not the exact same thing.
Magnifying glass around and let's take a closer look. So we should go to a pool. Wow, according to the newspaper, Ella's not even on the shelf. This will take Ella off the suspect list. Keep up the good work. We can see that window. Hey, Cookie, is that a baby? You found a killer one. Good job, detectives. You and Goofy sure make a great team. Come on, let's look for more.
So our dinner this night was very good. You can see some of the things we got. I know that this night was one of our last nights on the ship, so the next day was going to be our very last day on the ship, and then the next day was debarkation day. So this night we was kind of dressed up a little bit, and then we had lobster. That was my first time trying lobster. It was actually pretty good, and I really enjoyed this meal tonight. And it was just kind of sad to know that, you know, in 2 days we were no longer going to be on the cruise. We were going to have to figure things out. And you'll later on in the series, you might see a little bit of me crying. But anyways, going back to this meal, it was very good. Everything was great. But my thoughts on Athens were I really enjoyed it. The tour that we had was great. I would definitely recommend PK Tours for a tour if you're going on a cruise, because they were great. They understand that you need to get back in time, and they were ready to accommodate whatever we needed to do. So our guide was great as well. So I believe they're probably linked up with some really great guides. So you may not get ours, and I can't remember his or our driver's name, but they were all great. So I'd like to thank y'all again for watching this video. This was the end of the dinner, and then we did see this little painting, and you can actually drive this pirate ship with that little steering wheel.
and I'll show that in a minute. But I'd like to thank y'all for watching. This video is kind of long, but I was trying to combine both days into one because our rest day was just kind of didn't have enough content to put it as a separate video. But anyways, thanks for watching. If you're liking these videos, like and subscribe please. And this is our towel animal, the ram, I believe.